Coming up on the Hong Kong Racing Show, a big night for trainer Casper Founds and jockey Vincent Ho at Happy Valley. Professional horse player Sean Boarman tells us why he's now focusing on Hong Kong racing.
I'd say within 6 weeks, I realized what a good product it was.
And we preview a big card at Sha Tin featuring a number of 4-year-old series contenders. It's all coming up on the Hong Kong Racing Show. You're watching the Hong Kong Racing Show. Andrew Brown alongside Alex Evers to take you through everything in the world of Hong Kong racing viewed through a North American lens. How are things, Alex?
Things are great, Brownie. Lovely to talk to you. I can't wait to talk to Sean. Always excited to talk about Hong Kong racing, handicapping, and people that have crossed over to the HKJC side of the wagering thing like myself.
That's right. And if you've got some New Year's resolutions to be a better horse player or better Hong Kong horse player, either, you are not going to want to miss our chat with Sean Boarman. Really fascinating story, how he has basically just moved all of his wagering dollars from Hong Kong, from North American racing over to Hong Kong racing. So it'll be an interesting chat with the 2023 BCBC champion, Sean Boarman. Will join him in just a few moments. Before we do that, though, Alex, let's just recap Happy Valley during the week. Your mate Vincent Ho with a treble, and Casper has wrestled the lead in the Trainers' Championship back off Mark Newnham.
Casper, the king of the Valley, and Vincent this season has been great at the Valley too. I think the majority of his winners have come over there, and he's had a couple of nights with doubles and triples on the night. So it's lovely to see, and the cyclical nature. He'd gone kind of cold for a couple of weeks, and then bam, 3 right there, 2 back to back at the end of the card. So you just never know. I wish we had the jockey bet because I was looking at his mounts and I was going to play it before I fell asleep, but unfortunately we don't have that here. But again, we're talking to Sean, and hopefully we can get some light on some new wagering opportunities for us here in the United States, because some of the wagers in Hong Kong are absolutely fantastic and fun. And a jockey wager is a great way to just get new people involved in the game. You got a fan favorite jockey, just play all his horses there, play him for the day and cash that bet.
Yeah, that's right. Sean does have some information for us about 2 very popular Hong Kong bets available in Hong Kong that haven't been widely available in North America up to this point. The 6-up, where you got to pick the winner or the second in 6 straight races, and also the triple trio. So that'll be exciting. We'll talk to Sean about those bets shortly. Speaking of race highlights, though, I should turn the clock back to last weekend too. Sha Tin. That was a pretty smart win from Stellar Express in the sprint race there, the Group 3. Won really well, didn't he?
Yeah, and I didn't expect him to get the lead so easily like that. I mean, with the lightweight, obviously he had an advantage there, but I thought Baby Crystal was going to go and put some pace pressure on, and about 150 meters out of the gate, that was clearly not the case, and that was just a walkover for him.
Yeah, unbelievable. Anyway, well, we've got plenty more action coming up this weekend from Sha Tin. We're going to preview a couple of the races shortly. We might see if Sean's had a look at them, and we'll get his opinion as well. Before we get to Sean, though, I did want to just let you know about a giveaway that's happening over on the HK Racing US X feed at the moment, where you can win an HKIR hat from 2025, or if you're into the more vintage style hats, an HKIR hat from 2024. So it's your choice. There's 5 up for grabs over on the HK Racing US Twitter feed. Make sure you follow and share it and tell us which one you want. And you could be winning one of these pretty awesome hats. All the jockeys and trainers wear them throughout HKR week, don't they, Alex?
You can match my jacket, my collar on my jacket with either of those hats.
See if I can put that on your head. Doesn't quite work. Yeah, so anyway, check it out. It's pretty easy to enter HK Racing US on X. I'll even get Alex to retweet it for you so that you can see it on his feed for a little bit of extra amplification. But without further ado, I can see Sean is in the green room. He's ready to join us. So let's cross over to Sean now and find out what he's up to. Always exciting to have professional Hong Kong racing horse player and the 2023 BCBC champion Sean Boarman back on the show. Sean, great to see you. Has it been a prosperous 2026 for you so far?
It's no, not so far, but the year is young still. Right.
I think we've only had two Hong Kong cards so far, haven't we?
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah.
there's plenty
Yeah. I
more to
mean,
go.
I'm hovering around even, if not slightly behind, but
Likewise.
we'll make it up.
Indeed, I think your story is a fascinating one for our audience, Sean. As a pro horse player based in North America, the last time we spoke, you had pretty much turned your back on North American racing from a wagering perspective and directed all of your attention almost exclusively towards Hong Kong racing. Is that still the case as we speak today?
It is, yeah, and it's probably even more so. I've very quickly gotten extremely fed up with the North American racing product, and I would say I probably bet 95 to 99% of my money in Hong Kong now.
Wow. Yeah, that's incredible. So and for those of you that sorry, for those that might be listening to you for the first time, can you kind of take us back and tell us your story a little bit and maybe how you went from betting on North American racing and transitioned over to betting professionally on Hong Kong racing and why that was?
Sure, sure. So I've been a professional player for over 20 years now. Took a little hiatus along the way when my first daughter was born, but for the most part, I've played, very seriously for about 25 years. And when COVID hit, they shut the tracks in America down for the most part. And I'd always been interested in Hong Kong. So that seemed like a natural time to just dive in, and start studying it. I got some good advice from Pat Cummins
Yeah.
about the product, and within I'd say within 6 weeks, I realized what a good product it was, and that I wanted to focus. At the time, I didn't know it would be as much, as 95% of my wagering, but I wanted to start focusing on it. And I started doing a lot of work to build a database and produce trip notes and speed figures that I need to operate. And, it just grew from there, really.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you've actually shared your PPs with me once or twice. You've basically created what you might find on DRF or Brisnet American style PPs for Hong Kong racing.
Mhm.
How much does that help you in terms of making informed wagering decisions?
I mean, it's everything for me. I'm sort of used to doing things a certain way, and I just found the publicly available PPs through like the American ADWs and even on the Jockey Club website were just not something that I could use to bet with. I'm used to having my own sort of proprietary information displayed in a certain way, and so I hired a programmer to basically recreate my American style past performances, for Hong Kong, and just use those exclusively now.
Yeah, that's awesome. I should point out for those watching that if you are betting on Hong Kong racing in North America through your North American ADW, whether it be with Twin Spires or FanDuel or ExpressBet or Amwager, Watch and Wager, your wagering dollars are going directly into the enormous Hong Kong pools. And why that is attractive is because there's just a huge amount of liquidity in those pools. It's big payouts on exotics and generally not always price stability too, which I imagine must have been another huge attraction for you, Sean.
Yes, absolutely. The product, I'll even go as far as say it's like the class situation, the way they class their horses, and
Mm.
the, you have to earn your way up and down the class ladder in Hong Kong, whereas in this country, you'll see guys just drop from 50 claiming into 10 claiming to win a race, and you really have no idea what kind of form that horse is in, if it's hurt, if it's not. So it's just there's more stability overall. There's more price stability, although you do get late odds movements in Hong Kong. I think that's people need to know that it's just dealt with in a better way, I think. But there's, and you mentioned the liquidity. I mean, that's the main draw, is day in, day out, you can make big scores in Hong Kong, which is the way I like to play. I like to bet a little to win a lot, and that it's a perfect place for that.
On that topic, what kind of wagers do you like to make over there? Like, what's your kind of go-to play?
Um, when I first got interested, I was playing sort of the way I originally played in the US. I was playing a lot of trifectas, exact. I believe when I first started, they had not reinstituted the exact. It was just quinellas, but vertical exotic wagers. Um, I've really gravitated more now to just win bets on horses I think are good value and the six up. I think the six up is a
Mm,
phenomenal wager. I think it offers a lot of value, even on days where it doesn't, doesn't quote pay a lot of money. It'll pay well relative to the ease of hitting it or the difficulty of hitting it. Um, I just think I think it's a great bet, and I love the place aspect of it, where the consolation over there is if you're on first or second instead of like five of six as it is in this country for a traditional pick six. I really like the place part of it.
mm. I got to experience my first six up at HKIR just last month. Went in for a
Mhm.
ticket with a good friend of mine, Michael Felgate. Now, with the winners such as Romantic Warrior, Kaying Rising, and Voyage Bubble, it didn't pay all that much. I think we got 5 winners in 1 second. Maybe we got our money back, but such a fun bet. I totally agree with you. How do you play that wager from North America, though? Because I'm not sure, correct me if I'm wrong, that every ADW offers it.
No, Watch and Wager is the only one that offers it currently. I've heard that's about to change,
Right.
hopefully sometime in the next few months. But I play it through Watch and Wager. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And just sorry if I didn't say it before. It's picking 6 winners in a sequence, or second, first or second in a sequence, isn't it? And there's
Right.
eight then to play.
It's essentially like a for North American based players, like the place pool is first or
Yeah.
second.
Mm,
It's essentially a place pick six with a bonus if you have all six winners.
yeah.
Um, I typically play it as a just a traditional pick six, and I like to use the place aspect of it to me just allows me to single horses I have very strong opinions on, because I can say, if you're not first or second on a horse you love, you were just wrong. And it just, helps cut the cost of the tickets down and allows me to spread in races. Some of those Sha Tin races with 14 horses, there could be 14 different winners in a lot of those races. So you need coverage in a lot of them.
Mm,
So that's the thing about it I really like, because it allows me to really focus in on horses I like. And as you said, you can, I had a ticket just last weekend. I only had three winners. I had three winners in 3 seconds and doubled my money.
great.
Um, so it's a really good bet, I think.
Yeah.
And then also with that watch and wager, are you allowed to play the triple trio over there with the?
No,
Okay.
that's that's still I think the only North American but non-US ADW is the Canadian. Is it HPI?
Yep.
Okay.
The Canadian ADW takes the six up and the triple trio and the double trio.
Right.
But we just get the six up and just at watch and wager. But again, I think that's about to change. I think on all three of those wagers. I think sometime soon they're supposedly coming to North America.
Oh, that'd be
Not that I have any chance of hitting a triple trio ever. I can barely hit a single. I can barely hit a
There's
single trio, let alone.
You talk about a tough bet. That thing, that's a hard one.
You mentioned just earlier that there are price movements in Hong
Mhm.
Kong racing, despite the massive liquidity in the pools. However, it's treated a little differently in Hong Kong. I think certainly on course, when something flashes brown, they call it going brown. That's when an odds of a horse would decrease by 50%. There's going green, which I think is 20 or 25%, but it's kind of celebrated in a way. It's like exciting. Oh my gosh, there's this much money that's come on this horse that's moved its odds by that much. There's a roar that almost comes from the crowd a little bit. Um, the CAWs do play in Hong Kong. I think it's public information that they are cut off with I think 4 horses to go before as the fifth last is loaded in, they're cut off. So there is a little bit of a rules around that information. But how do you sort of I guess balance those late price movements? Is it something that you're concerned about, or does it happen so infrequently, Sean, that you're not really too concerned when you're placing your win wagers?
No, it concerns me. I mean, I think it should concern everybody.
Yeah.
I just really like the way they discuss it openly on the simulcast feed.
Mm-hmm.
They do a very good job of alerting you, even as far out as the first thing they'll talk about, going from race to race is what horses have taken all up money and what horses are being bet in the Quinellas. And they continue that conversation throughout the analysis, pre-race analysis, and specifically the last probably 5 minutes before the off, they're talking about wagering. They're talking about which horses are getting bet in what pools. It's just really dealt with to me, it's dealt with in a much more professional way. Whereas in this country, it's just sort of not dealt with at all, I guess you could say. Um,
Yeah, it comes off as a nothing to see over here type of thing, and and social media gets louder and louder and louder with it too. It's as it gets more
yes,
egregious.
yeah, yeah. It's not a great situation over here right now.
Have you noticed? I mean, maybe I've noticed it because I've been just following it a lot closer and playing kind of Wednesdays and Saturdays or Friday nights over here. But it does seem like the computer teams are a little bit more active or more accurate this season for whatever reason. I've kind of maybe taken notice to it, or it's been horses that I've been on that have been affected. Maybe that's what it is. But
Yeah, I started sort of noticing, I would say the beginning of last season and maybe the tail end of the season before that. I thought the markets had gotten 5% smarter, I would say. You could say, and that's a lot when,
yeah,
my profit margins aren't much in this game. So 5% means a lot. But I do think as every market does, it's getting slightly more efficient. The beauty about Hong Kong racing is there's a lot of, but the field size, it's extremely hard to efficiently cover 14 horse fields in all those wagering pools. So I really think for the most part, it's pretty efficient, but I do think they make one to two pretty glaring betting mistakes a race card. And if you
yeah.
can find those and you can capitalize on them, you can make a lot of money.
Mm.
Yeah, there was one the other night I was watching. He was like it would have been. It went off. He was the sorry. He was the 12 horse, but he hit Brown on place in the money line, and everything was through the Quinellas, and the horse didn't run a step. I mean, he didn't
Uh,
was never a factor. And then I got hit with one playing the dirt. Me with the dirt was very biased, and there's that Justify. He went from 12 down to 5 right as they were cutting him off, and I was like, wow, that was kind of a shock, but.
mm,
I think you're going to see them go over to these markets that are bigger where they can make more money as it gets more consolidated and harder and shorter fields in the United States. They can't be profitable with 5 horse fields. I can't see it.
Yeah, and one thing you need to keep in mind with the teams is they're betting every combination in every pool, the largest ones in the entire world. Um, so some of the horses that are going brown and green, like it's not necessarily steam that they love the horse, but they could just be cleaning up a price inefficiency and cut it from 50 to 1 to 30 to 1 because they're getting a little bit of value there and they've got to handle a certain amount of money in each race to make their meet their goals and make their profits. So that some of it is, it's not that it's not real money, but it's not like always insider barn money. Like they do, they'll get some gambles over there, and
mm,
race callers do a good job of pointing that out. But it's not all, like inside sneaky money.
hmm There looked like there was a good go from maybe some good information on New Year's Day. I think it was Rising Force, a Ricky Yu horse that was 16 into 335 and Julie saluted. That was a fair go. I don't know if you guys remember that one.
Vaguely, yeah. Yeah.
Um, so what would you say? I heard you a couple of weeks ago talking to our mutual friend Peter Thomas Fornatail, and I think, and correct me if I'm wrong again, that you may have said along the lines of you're pretty confident in your ability to find winners in Hong Kong, whether it be Sha Tin
Mhm.
or Happy Valley, but it seemed as though you maybe weren't as confident in your ability to turn that into a profit. If I'm right there, can you sort of elaborate a little bit on that a bit more?
Um, yeah, I've spent a lot of time, a lot of my career playing vertical exotic wagers and trying to find logical winners, and then maybe trying to find a horse that's mispriced to run second or third. And that's how I played for many, many, many years. Um, it's a lot harder, I think, in Hong Kong to hit trifectas, especially, um, just because there's so many combinations, and the races are very competitive, and it's just a hard, it's harder to hit, but also could be I'm not quite as good as I used to be at those. It takes a lot of preparation and a lot of legwork to really handicap a race for who's going to run third and fourth. Um, but what I've really found is I can still pick really good winners in Hong Kong, and it's difficult because I like to play exotic bets, and I like to, you know, honestly, I don't like to risk a lot of money. I don't like putting $10,000 at risk in one single bet. I'm much more apt to bet $500 to win 10,000 if I can find a way to do it.
Mm.
So, what I meant when I was talking with Pete was, if I love a horse in the seventh and then love a horse in the 10th, there's no way to link them up together. Um, you can't play a double. You could play the six up, but then you've got four other races to deal with that you could lose. So it's just trying to find ways to expose as little capital as possible to still reap the biggest gains when I'm right.
Hmm.
I don't want to be, have two good winners at 4 or 5 to 1 each and not really score. So that's sort of what I was getting at. It's just trying to find more creative ways to get my money down, basically.
See what you're
How do you track and how do you improve on something like that? Because I feel not the same at the same scale as you, but I can find winners. But to maximize my betting ability is probably my least skillful attribute when it comes to handicapping.
Yeah, and then that's the hardest part of it is, that's what sort of separates everything out. Is I know a lot of really good handicappers, but I know a lot of really bad wagerers too. And it's just, that's the difficult part. I'm looking into, I know you guys may be familiar with the all up,
Mhm.
bet that they have locally in Hong Kong, where it's sort of like a parlay. You could sort of create your own parlays basically. And I'm sort of trying to simulate that through the, betting channels that I have access to where if I like two horses, but they aren't right next to each other in a double, or two-thirds of a late pick three, say, to where I can just bet X amount on the first one and then roll that money into the second one. The beauty about all that liquidity in the Hong Kong pools is you can make a really substantial bet without affecting your price. So yeah, I'm trying to sort of get away to where I can do that and have it automated, because I also don't like to be up at 3 in the morning my time betting all that much anymore. It's just not the lifestyle I'm really wanting at the moment. So, it's if I could get it to where it's automated with some rules, I can make bets at the prices I want on the horses I want and just go to bed and sort of wake up and see what happens. I'm not quite there yet. I don't have it figured out, but I'm working on it.
When you play that way, are you ever worried? Sorry, Brownie, to cut in
All right.
there. When you play that way, are you ever concerned with, like, as an example, on HKR day where the track was clearly dead on the fence and there was certain biases that come out? How can you account for that? Or you just kind of
You can't.
you just in
You
it?
just, yeah, you can't. Eh, eh, especially in the turf racing, I think those. biases are sort of infrequent enough to you can live with it. That dirt track at Sha Tin does get biased pretty frequently. So on cards when there's dirt racing or something in the pick six or any sequence that I'm looking at, I'll sort of tread lightly, I'd say. If I'm worried about some sort of bias creeping up, I either won't play or I'll just play smaller. Um, and it's really not all that much different than in this country, especially years ago when you get really big biases. I mean, stuff would creep up after you've put a pick six ticket in, and there's just nothing you can do about it, really.
Yeah.
So it's a risk, but it's a known risk, and I've always thought if I know what the risks are in front of me, I can deal with it. It's when they're sort of unknown that I have a problem with it.
Yeah. Well, I think, I mean, that all up slash parlay idea is quite interesting. I know that Twin Spires has been offering some product where you can build your own parlay. I'm not sure if it's gone over to Hong Kong racing as yet. I can have a look into it
Hmm.
and let you know, but that could be an angle for you. But in the meantime, Sean, why don't we put your ability to pick winners to the test? We've got a great
Um,
card coming up at Sha Tin. The feature race at Sha Tin on Saturday night is the Racing Club Cup handicap. It's a class 2 over the 1400 metres. That's about 7 furlongs on the turf. And number 3, Invincible Shield. Should appreciate the step up to the 1400 metres. I'll just go over a couple of the key runners here as we have a look at the market. He had a bit of a troubled trip last out when he was third. 6 Sky Trust dropped in class after doing plenty of work early in a Group 3 event last out before tiring late. 9 Public Attention. He's a 4-year-old Classic Series contender, third start in his form sequence after 2 placings, and looks a pretty genuine chance here. And if we check out the speed map, it has Drombeg Banner, the Hong Kong Jockey Club speed map on their website, has Drombeg Banner going to the lead. So that's race 8 on the card at Sha Tin this Saturday night. Let's kick it over to you first, Sean. Is there a standout for you here?
I wouldn't say a standout, but there is a horse I'm interested in. I thought this race could potentially get a pretty good pace to it. As you said, I think Drawback Banner makes the lead, but there's a few other ones that could show pace. So I was looking for a horse that had some good finish and could sit a good trip. And I sort of settled on Midwinter Wind.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think that horse had sort of a subtly bad trip last out, finished really well, and then came back with a really strong barrier trial. So I was going to take a shot with him at what I'm hoping could be a decent price.
Yeah, I think he should get a pretty decent price too. I remember when he made his first Hong Kong start last season, and he came from the absolute clouds. I don't think he's run a race since. I'll just pull up his form, but that was just an incredible race. It was around the same time. I think my Wish might have won on the same day. It was
I think you're right. Yeah.
and it was a phenomenal run. But yeah, I think you're right with all the speed drawn on. He gets back, doesn't he? He'll probably be last or near last, and you could take advantage of that pace up front. What about you here, Alex? Do you like anything in race 8?
It's interesting because you have those Classic Series horses in Little Paradise, Infinite Resolve, who just won last out, as well as Public Attention. I still like Invincible Shield here, but the getting the 1400 is probably at the limit of his distances, as I kind of overheard Ryan talking to the owners when he ran 1401 on him. So that might be a bit of a concern, but the C+3, he should sit a pretty good trip from 6. So I'm kind of on him. Dancing Code's interesting as well with Ellis on to get the weight off, but from barrier 14, he'll probably have to gun. So that would probably lead more to what Sean said with some pace being on in that race. And it'll be interesting to see what Little Paradise does as far as being a Classic Series horse and going forward, what happens with him and Zach.
Yeah, fair call. Okay, well, let's have a look at race 10, another great race on the card, a class 3 over the 1600 metres. That's about a mile, and features a lot of 4-year-old series contenders, including number 1, Invincible Ibis, who is probably the favourite at the moment for the upcoming Classic Mile. We had Mark Newnham on the show a couple of weeks ago, explaining why Hugh Bowman rides instead of Zach Purton, and that's because Zach Purton already had a prior engagement on Beauty Bolt before this race. So I guess Mark will be hoping that Zach gets back on Invincible Ibis after this start, and Huey Bowman will be hoping he keeps the ride. But I know that Zach has a lot of options up his sleeve, so he'll have a few choices to make. Speaking of Beauty Bolt, just beaten by Dazzling Fit last out, 8 Legend winner on the quick backup, and 11 Fit for Beauty looks another chance. Has one over the mile and gets a bit of weight relief here as well. Speed map shows Uranus Star taking up the running. What about you in race 10 here, Sean? Who do you like?
This is a really interesting race. I think there's a lot of good horses here, and unlike the eighth, I didn't think there was a ton of real pace. I think it'll be run true, but not sort of overly fast. So I was looking for something that had a little tactical speed and a little finish to it. I I might take a chance with Fit for Beauty.
Mm-hmm.
Just thinking he's probably going to be in the pocket or one back, one out, and just get a really good trip. And they've got to bet Invincible Ibis. He's really good. And Beauty Bolt they'll bet with Zach up. So I just thought that horse might offer a little value and get a really good trip.
Yeah, the Hong Kong Jockey Club speed map has Fit for Beauty 3 back the pegs, 3 back the fence. Beauty Bolt 3 wide last. So Zach might have according to the speed map anyway, a bit of a challenge for him with Beauty Bolt. Where's Invincible Ibis? Invincible
He's
Ibis
drawn 3.
sitting behind you on the Hong Kong Jockey Club speed map anyway. Sean, Fit for Beauty,
Mhm.
3 back the fence. Invincible Ibis behind you, 4 back the fence. So that'll be an interesting race as well. Alex, who do you like?
I liked the same horse there, but I was kind of interested in this horse class, just coming back off of his first run. Kind of just looked like he was in for a run. Barrier 11, I don't really love, but it's an interesting race because you get that, like Zach talked about with Invincible Ibis, kind of being uncomfortable amongst the pack and in and around horses. Yep. Again, draws 3. And Beauty Bolt's got that 14, which is such a long run into the turn. So if anybody can navigate a trip from outside there, it's Zach. But that'll be kind of interesting things on those 2 horses, and does present an opportunity for a horse like Fit for Beauty with Edzini at lightweight, who's ridden really well for size here on these lightweight horses in the last couple of weeks, to slot in there and get a good run. It's kind of, again, I'm the type of guy likes to bet. I'm looking at the odds late and see where money's going and kind of who's on what and that type of thing. So I am the one who stays up till 3 a.m. to watch these races.
It's tough. I used to do it, man. It's it's brutal.
We've got
Sundays. I'm waste on Sunday.
We've got the advantage on the West Coast that first race 1 is 8:30 p.m. on a Saturday night, so it kind of helps us for the first half of the card, or 3/4 of the card at least, until I get tired. Alex stays up, but then you've got the advantage, Happy Valley on the Wednesday on the East Coast, right? Race 1 at 5:30 in the morning.
Yeah, that's it. Happy Valley is no problem at all.
Yeah,
it's actually pleasurable to get up and start working that early and get it over with. But Sha Tin's tough, man.
No, I agree. Well, Sean, before we let you go, we've got to thank you so much for your time. We really appreciate it. I think I told you 10, 15 minutes. We've probably spoken for 30 minutes. That's because we're always so interested in what you have to say. Before we let you go, though, what about three tips for somebody who's just getting into Hong Kong racing in terms of what information you might want to share with them in terms of trying to find a winner and get knowledgeable about what you're betting on the product?
Gosh, that's a tough question. I think the racing there is even more so than in the States, is very pace dependent and very trip dependent. So I would, the first tip I would say is familiarize yourself with jockeys and their tendencies and who can understand what the pace scenarios are. There's nobody better at that than Zach Burton. I mean, he's very rarely in the wrong spot. Like we just discussed with Beauty Bolt, I can almost guarantee you he gets that horse in a pretty good spot. He will not be last 3 wide. That's just not going to happen with him. So that's one thing. Gosh, what?
Get familiar with the class system, I guess. I mean,
The class system is important to understand, and understand the sort of ratings bands, and how how those work, and the really the how you have to earn your way to a higher class or lower class. And then I think one of the really good things they do is they on the Jockey Club website they show videos of all those barrier trials and all the track work. Particularly the barrier trials, I think you can glean a lot of good info from watching those videos, understanding trainer habits and how they treat the trials, and then finding horses that are trialing well that maybe their form on the racetrack doesn't show that, but that could be a clue that they're about to turn things around. Those things I think are all very important.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Such a good resource, the Hong Kong Jockey Club website. And I noticed they've actually introduced a couple of new camera angles over this past week as well. You can now look at the drone camera on race replays, which is awesome. That's now
That
available
is awesome.
for
I
us.
didn't know that. That's great.
Yeah, and also another one that they've introduced from the trials that you just mentioned is the walk up into the gates. So you're not just
Mhm.
watching them jump out of the barriers. You actually can watch them behind the barriers and walk into the barriers as well, which is quite interesting. But yeah, the drone is awesome. Sean, we have taken up too much of your time. I want to thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your passion for Hong Kong racing with us and our audience. Appreciate it.
Anytime. Really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Alex, always fascinating to talk to Sean. He's got such a great story.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm trying to learn as much as I can from all our guests, whether they're jockeys or handicappers or anybody, and trying to find ways to become a more efficient bettor. Maybe not as more efficient of a handicapper, but a way to make those opinions turn into profitable wagers, because that's where I struggle badly.
That's right. Well, that's probably about all we have time for on this episode of the Hong Kong Racing Show. We thank you all for watching. Don't forget, you can win a hat over on the HK Racing US feed. This is an HKIR hat 2024 edition or 2025 edition. There's 5 up for grabs. Don't forget to enter, and we'll have the winner. We'll announce the winner on next week's show. But until then, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week. Thanks, Alex, on the Hong Kong Racing Show.